In the world of AI, it feels like a new, game-changing tool drops pretty much every single week. And while that's exciting, let's be real, it is also totally overwhelming. So the big question is, how do you cut through all that noise to find real, strategic value? Well, let's dive into a framework that does exactly that.
Okay, let's just be honest for a second. Have you ever felt that pull, that almost magnetic urge to chase the latest, hottest piece of tech just because it's new? Well, that's a real thing, and it actually has a name. Yep, it's called shiny object syndrome. It's the trap of pursuing innovation just for the sake of innovation. And here's the problem. You've got limited time, you've got a finite budget, and a reactive approach where you're trying to do everything at once. Well, that's not just inefficient, it's a surefire recipe for failure. So once you've got a list of some potentially great AI ideas, the real work starts. The fundamental challenge, it shifts from simply asking, hey, is this valuable? To the much, much harder question of prioritization. Which one do we build right now?
Now, to tackle this, most teams reach for a tool they already know. But as we're about to see, the old way of doing things has some serious and honestly pretty costly blind spots when it comes to AI.
I'm sure you've seen this a million times. A simple 4-quadrant box where you plot projects based on how much impact they'll have versus how much effort they'll take. It seems logical, right? You just aim for those high-impact, low-effort, quick wins up in the top left corner.
But here's the critical question we have to ask ourselves. When you're dealing with something as complex, as expensive, and as high stakes as artificial intelligence, is a model this simple really enough to guide a smart decision?
The answer, unfortunately, is a big no. See, for AI, this simple grid isn't just incomplete, it's dangerously misleading. I mean, think about what it totally misses. Regulatory risks that could stop a project dead in its tracks. The actual quality of your data, which is the fuel for any AI project. It overlooks long-term strategic value for short-term wins, and it completely fails to capture the huge impact on your brand and your customers' trust. It's just a snapshot, not a real strategy. And this comparison really lays out the shift in thinking that we need. It's all about moving away from that simplistic, often subjective grid that's all about the short term, and moving toward a comprehensive model that is strategic, risk-aware, and driven by objective data, not just gut feelings from the loudest person in the room. So what does this better model look like? Well, it's a framework built around 6 core dimensions. You can think of them as the 6 critical questions that every single AI proposal has to answer before it even thinks about getting a green light.
Let's walk through these 6 questions. First up, strategic alignment. Does this project actually support our big long-term goals? Second, financial viability. What's the real projected ROI here? Is it going to make us money or save us money? Third, and this one is so crucial, feasibility. Do we have the data, the tech, and the people to actually build this today? Not tomorrow, today. Fourth is brand impact. How will this affect how our customers see us and, more importantly, trust us? Fifth, innovation value. Does this give us a real competitive edge, or are we just playing catch-up? And finally, number 6, implementation complexity. What is the real-world operational lift required to actually make this thing happen? Okay, so just having these 6 categories is already a huge step forward. But we can make this framework even more powerful by tailoring it to your company's specific strategy. Because here's the simple truth. Depending on whether your company is focused on aggressive growth or on stable profits this year, some of those 6 dimensions are just flat out more important than others.
And this is where a technique called weighted scoring comes into play. It's a method where you assign a different level of importance or a weight to each of those 6 criteria. The really crucial thing here is that this process turns a subjective debate full of opinions into an objective, data-driven calculation that directly reflects what your company actually cares about right now.
So, for example, if your company is all about stability and minimizing risk, you'd give a higher weight to things like brand impact and feasibility. But if you're a challenger brand that's aiming for aggressive growth, you would crank up the weight on innovation value. You see? It's the same list of projects, but different weights can lead to a completely different winner.
Now, what's so cool is seeing how this plays out in the real world. Let's imagine a bank, and they're choosing between 2 projects. One is a safe, reliable fraud detection system, and the other is a much riskier but maybe groundbreaking AI product R&D effort. If the bank's strategy is all about stability, they weight the scores and boom, the fraud project wins, hands down. But if their mandate shifts to aggressive growth, they just adjust the weights, and suddenly that innovative R&D project comes out on top. The framework makes sure the decision always aligns with the strategy. It's that simple.
Okay, I know that was a lot of theory, so let's boil all of this down and make it super practical.
Let's create a simple 3-question test you can literally use tomorrow morning to sanity check any AI project on your list.
We'll call it the Shiny Object Test. It's just 3 questions. First, is this solving a real, documented business problem, or is it just cool tech? Be honest. Second, is our data truly ready to support this right now? And third, does it directly align with the company's biggest goals for this year? Now, if you can't give a clear and confident yes to all 3 of those, that's a signal to pause and rethink things. And that really brings us to the core idea here, the single most important takeaway from all of this. It's that prioritization isn't about excitement, it's about alignment. It's not about chasing the most thrilling new technology, it's about disciplined, strategic focus.
So I'll leave you with one final question to take back to your team. Look at your #1 AI project right now. After everything we've talked about, can you confidently say it's a true strategic asset? Or could it just be the shiniest object in the room? The answer to that question could change everything.